Now, we will start the 6th chapter in Science 2. There are 10 in all. We have covered 5. We will start the 6th chapter in Science 2, which happens to be the 6th chapter in the textbook also, which is called Animal Classification. And as we do, whenever we start a new chapter, we will see what is there in the chapter. We will see what all we need to know before we start the chapter. And then we will start studying the chapter. We will need our textbooks. We will need our notebooks. And today, for a change, we will need our textbooks and pencils more than our notebooks and pens. This is a chapter full of information. It's like every single word is important. And this chapter is full of words that most of us will come across, will read for the first time in our life. And most of the words, new words that we will come across, they are not of English, they are of Latin origin. Long, they will be difficult to pronounce, and we may not find all the words in the dictionary also. So it becomes extremely important to annotate as much as we can in the textbook so that we don't get lost. Be ready. Textbooks, notebooks, and pens. When I look at the chapter, I see that the chapter is divided into 4 content areas, 4 main content areas. One is about need for classification. Why do we need to classify animals? Second, what is the criteria for classification? On what basis we will classify animals? Number 3 is what is the classification? I mean, what are the different groups of animals that we make? Finally, and this is where most of the information is, what are the main characteristics of different groupings of animals? Very, very information heavy. No mathematics at all. A lot to understand, a lot to remember. Understanding is easy for this chapter. Remembering may be a little bit difficult because there will be a lot of information and a lot of new information. Before we move, I just thought of a fun question. The name of this chapter is called Animal Classification. If I ask you, what do you think this chapter is very similar to from Science 1? There is a chapter in Science 1 also, which is very, very similar to this. Can you guess and tell me? Can you refer to your Science 1 textbook and tell me which chapter am I referring to in Science 1? No, Aman, we did not study about plants in Science 1. We studied about classification of plants in Science 2 only, but that was last year. I am asking you what this chapter is relevant to or similar to in Science 1. And you can answer this question if you just understand the name of the chapter. Name of the chapter is Animal Classification. Look at the textbook. Look at your Science 1 textbook. You will be able to find the answer. Very good, Prachi. Correct answer. Anyone else? No, RP. It has got nothing to do with carbon compound. As Prachi said, this chapter or the structure of this chapter or the type of information that is in this chapter is very similar to what we have in periodic classification of elements. The chapter name Periodic Classification of Elements in Science 1. Told you, you can find what I'm trying for you to find just by comparing the names. Very good, Chanda. So in this chapter in Science 2, we will classify, we will understand how to classify, and we will also see the properties of different groups of animals. And we did something, not something, exact thing when we studied about classification of periodic classification of elements. There we grouped the elements. We understood how to do it, what criteria to use. And then we studied the properties of different groups of elements. Same thing. We will do it for science 2, for animals. Well done, Prachi and Chanda. But that's the chapter. What we will do in this session for science 2, we will start with a tour of the chapter. We will do a quick revision of the very basic things that we need to know for this chapter. Then we will start studying this chapter. And in that, we will look at 2 topics. First one is need for classification. So by now, if you were there, if you studied that periodic classification of elements, then you already know why do we need classification, what is classification. So we will look at that from the perspective of animals, and then we will look at one type of classification which is called traditional or conventional classification. These are the 4 things we will try to achieve in this session. So let us start with a tour of the chapter. Chapter should be visible on your screens now. Like any other chapter, it starts with some revision, and it starts with a classification diagram, which is about living organisms. And this we already know. We have done it already 2-3 times in our lives. Last year, this year also. But this is the basis. This is the foundation that we will build on. Then we understand why do we need classification. That is page number 61. It continues with the definition of classification and benefits of classification. And on the left hand side of the second page, we understand what has been the history of classification. कि पहले कैसे होता था. And that पहले कैसे होता था gives us the traditional or the conventional method of classification. Very briefly it is given, and it ends on 63. See, classification. So many names, so many different sounding names. These are Latin origin. These are of Latin origin. At the bottom of the page number 63, we are introduced. Not introduced. We have just been told the name, which is called a 5-kingdom classification. 5-kingdom classification. But what those 5 kingdoms are, it's not given in the textbook. That's not required for us. But what we need to understand, what we will understand is what is the basis for this 5-kingdom classification. What criteria do we use? So there is something about grades of organization, body symmetry, germ layers, body cavity, body segmentation, right? So till page number 66, we will study how the 5 kingdoms classification works. What is the underlying basis criteria? We will study the 5 criteria in some detail. And then from page number 67 onwards, we will study the properties of specific types of animals, groups of animals. Porifera, Coelenterata or Cnidaria, Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, Chordata, Urochordata, Vertebrata or Craniata, Cyclostomata, Pisces or Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, Mammalia. Lots of information. And in the exercise, the questions that are there are very interesting. Just see question number 1. It says, identify me. It's like we are being detective. It says, I am diploblastic and acyclomate. Which phylum do I belong to? So we will, characteristics will be given and we will have to figure out phylum, class, kingdom, subkingdom. And there is no shortcut. We will have to remember a lot and we will have to figure out the right answer. Just see, there is not one number, no maths at all. Lots of information, lots of pictures. This is how the chapter is. After that, tour of the chapter, which very clearly proved to you that this chapter contains a lot of information, a lot of new words, a lot of things to remember, and that absolutely no maths. Let us see what fundamental things we need to know to succeed in this chapter. So think and answer. Try to remember and answer some questions which we all should know. What are the main types of organisms? And I'm not looking at very technical names, very detailed names. If we very simple question, if I ask you, we see a lot of different types of organisms on the planet Earth. We have also studied about biodiversity, but mainly, what are the types of the organisms? Try answer. If we don't get into the details, very technical details of types of organism, even if we haven't studied science, we would notice that organisms are either plants or animals. Mainly, when you study when you study science in much more detail, when you study biology in much more detail, you will study about certain organisms which we will find difficult to classify into plants or animals. But at this point in time, using simple language, just by observation, we can say that some animals, some organisms are plants and some are animals. Plants, they depend on the plants for the. Next question. How do we classify the organisms? What information, what criteria do we use? On what basis? What is the meaning of criteria? Criteria is something that we use to group. For example, criteria for admission to colleges is your marks. Okay? So what is the criteria?
We will also mention function.
Mainly, we look at number of cells, unicellular, multicellular. We see if the cells have properly well-defined organelles, that is, do we have a nucleus or not? Are there proper organelles like the Golgi apparatus, the vacuoles, the mitochondria? Are those organelles there or not? So based on this, we classify them as eukaryotes, prokaryotes. Then we also see the cell wall, whether the cell wall is present or not. All the cells have cell membrane, but only plant cells have cell walls in them. And in addition to this, we also see how they look, that is their structure of the body, where they live, that is their habitat, what they eat, that is mode of nutrition, how they reproduce, all those things are there. Thank you. All correct answers. Next question. Something that you studied last year. What criteria is used for classification of plants? So I remember, if you want to refer to your class 9 textbook, refer to that textbook and tell how do we classify plants? What things, what major items do we check? What is the criteria? Do you remember some classifications of plants? So when we are classifying plants, and I'm sticking to what we studied in class 9, we see if the plants have well-defined organs for specific purpose. Do they have well-defined roots? Do they have well-defined stems? Do they have well-defined reproductive organs? Conducting tissues, remember xylem and phloem. Are there specific tissues in the plants which conduct, which transport water and other nutrients? Do the plants have seeds or not? Do the plants have fruits or not? Based on these criteria, plants are classified into different groups. I hope you remember monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous, monocot, dicot. That was the final classification of the plants that you studied. Maybe you remember Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta. Based on these things, organs conducting seeds and fruits. So whenever we classify, and I hope by now all of you know that classification means grouping. For us to carry out classification, we should have a criteria. The criteria can be as simple as मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है, what do I like. That can also be a criteria, but there has to be a criteria. If we don't have a criteria, then there will not be any definite groups. It will be random. And classification is never random. Classification is structured, and that structure is defined by what logic we are using to group the things. It's very important to understand that logic. If we understand that logic, then we will be able to understand the classification itself. Let us again go back to that chapter in Science 1, periodic classification of elements. What is the criteria for the modern classification of elements? What is that criteria? Something related to the atoms. What is that criteria? Excellent answer, and such a quick answer, Chan. It is the atomic number. When we are classifying elements, the criteria that we are using is atomic number, and everything else, including the electronic configuration, the valency, the properties, everything else follows from atomic number. The periodic law, modern periodic law, that also says atomic number. Always let us have something to refer to. Then we will be able to understand new things easily. Good. Now can we fill this chart? This is a classification diagram. This is a hierarchy of classification of organisms, not just animals, organisms. And very clearly, it will have more weightage about animals because this chapter is about animals. Try complete it in your own notebooks now. No need to draw the pictures. Try complete the, you may call it a flow chart, but I will call it a hierarchy diagram or a classification. Wherever things are not written, try complete it. Do not refer to the guide. Do not refer to the internet. Try complete it on your own and confirm when you think you are ready. Maximum 5 minutes. Let's try fill this together. So this is classification of all the organisms, not just animals. If you remember, all living organisms at the very top can be classified as prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes or yes, let me write it in singular. No, everything else is written in plural. Why should we write it in singular? We should also write this in plural. So prokaryotes or prokaryota, they are organisms which do not have well-defined nucleus. They have some organelles, but even they are not well-defined. Whereas eukaryotes, E-U-K-A, karyote, carry refers to nucleus. So when we say pro and eu, it refers to mainly about how well the nucleus is defined. Eukaryotes. And there is only one kingdom which comes under prokaryotes, and it is Monera, M-O-N-E-R-A. Eukaryotes, on the other hand, are further divided into unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. All the unicellular organisms are classified under the kingdom Protista. Whereas the multicellular organisms are further divided based on cell walls. And we know it is the plants that have cell wall and the animals that do not have cell walls. So where we see kingdom Animalia, those are the organisms which have no cell wall. And the other group has so all the organisms that have cells with the cell walls, they are classified under the kingdom Animalia. And then the plants are the organisms which the cells of which do not have cell walls. They are further divided into autotrophs and heterotrophs. Okay. Autotrophs are green organisms, green plants, which have chlorophyll and they can make their own food. Heterotrophs, they live on other organisms. They live on the dead tissues. They live on other organisms. This is the basic classification. So fungus is the major example of heterotrophs. This chapter, the current chapter, is not about everything. It is only about one kingdom, which is kingdom Animalia. What are these kingdoms? This is one level of the hierarchy of the classification. I'm sure I have given you the hierarchy of classification earlier, or at least I have asked you. And when you studied about classification of plants, then also you would have studied about the classification, hierarchy of the classification. We will look at it. We will look at it once again this year also. Okay? Not so soon, in some time. So that was the revision. We looked at different types of organisms. We also understood how the classification is done. The chapter officially with the topic of why do we need classification? You already know the answer. You tell me, why do we need classification for anything? Why do we need classification? Classification in a simple way means grouping. And we need grouping for ease, for convenience. If you want to study animals, there are so many different types of animals. So it may be impossible to study all the types of animals individually. So if you make groups, then it will be easy to study. Instead of studying all the different organisms, all the different animals, we can study groups of animals. And we can find out the characteristics. How is that done? Let us look at it in a little bit more detail. Let us appreciate that because of the biodiversity on our planet, there are more than 7 million species of animals. 7 million, more than. We find it difficult to study 5 subjects in school. How are we supposed to study 7 million species of animals? It's highly difficult. It's almost impossible. So instead of studying about 7 million different species of animals, the idea is we group them into some limited number of groups, and then we study the groups. So it becomes easy. So if you want to understand about the group, if you study about one organism, one species of the group, we can tell about the entire group, other organisms, other species in the group. And when we study them, when we study the animals by classifying, we will also understand evolution. Remember, first chapter. Although there is such a big, huge biodiversity, although all the organisms are so different from each other, if we really pay close attention, there are similarities. So when we classify, we will be focusing on similarities, which help us understand evolution. If we classify, we will be able to identify also. Not all the students of our school are just known by names. No? Some are given grades. So you are in class 10. What should a class 10 student do? It becomes easy for everyone. It also helps us understand how the organisms are working with each other. How are they affecting each other? Ecosystem, environment. And that is, some of you have already said, how they live, where they live, the habitat, and their contribution to the environment. Also related to environment, habitat, and evolution, we will also be able to understand the adaptation. What is specific to their body structure, the way they live, which helps them survive where they survive. Fishes don't have legs. They have fins to swim. That is an adaptation. The animals that live on high altitude, they are able to fly. They are also able to stand cold temperature because of certain changes that had happened in their body. Remember these words: evolution. So when we classify, it becomes easy. In addition to the ease, we are able to understand how they are related to each other, how the organisms, the animals are related to the bigger environment, how they have evolved, how they have adapted to the environment. Various things. It's not just about ease, but there is much more than ease. But remember, there are more than 7 million species of animals. And if you aim to specialize in this study, then what you will be studying is called zoology. Study of animals is called zoology. Zoology, zoology. Study of plants is called botany, Botany. Study of animals is called zoology. I will write it on the screen. Till now, in the session today, we have looked at some basic concepts of for this chapter. We have seen what all information knowledge is there in the chapter, and we have started studying the chapter by understanding why we need to classify the animals. The second and the last thing we will study for this chapter today in this session is the traditional or the conventional classification. Traditional means जो होता आ रहा है, conventional जो करते हैं. This is not the modern, but yes, maximum अब ऐसा ही होता रहा है. So we are now on page number on the textbook 62, page number 62. And at the top of page number 62, it very clearly gives us a definition of classification. It says formation of groups and subgroups of animals depending upon similarities and differences among animals is called animal classification. Now, this definition of classification is applicable to anything. So if we talk about classification of elements, then we can say formation of groups and subgroups of elements depending upon similarity and differences among elements is called classification of elements. That is also right. So what is given here is the definition of classification. We can use this definition for any classification that we want. We can also very simply say classification is grouping based on similarity and dissimilarities, similarities and differences. That also can be done. So in the traditional conventional classification, we will study what has been done so far. Kya hua hai, kaise hua hai? That is what we are going to study. Rome was not built in a day. Where is Rome? It is the capital of the country, Italy. Rome was not built in a day. Do you know what it means? Before I tell you what it means, Rome was not built in a day. Okay? A lot of time and effort has been spent by various people over the years, centuries, to classify animals and make the study of animals easy, more convenient, not easy, more convenient. So mainly we will come across these methods. The artificial method of classification. I'm just checking the textbook if I've got it right. Yes, artificial method of classification, the natural system of classification, and classification based on evolution. Three main systems. What I want you to do now is go to page number 62 of your textbook, read the paragraph under the topic, under the heading, History of Animal Classification. History of Animal Classification. While you are reading, you are trying to find out what was the criteria for artificial method, what was the criteria for the natural system, and what is the criteria for classification based on evolution. You find out and you share it in the chat. I will update the slide. So different scientists, different philosophers, different people along a long period of time, they have observed that there are so many different types of animals, and they have tried to classify them. First classification was based on how the external features, how the size of the body, what they do, how they do, where they live. Main name that is associated with this is Aristotle, Greek philosopher. Then came mainly Linnaeus, who proposed the natural system of classification, which is based on body organization, types of cells, chromosomes, biochemical properties. This is inside the body, naturally what is happening. And then came the more advanced system where it looked at how organisms are related to each other with respect to evolution, complexity. And all these things evolved into something new, something more common, something which uses all these criteria, which is called traditional. That is what we are studying here, the traditional or the conventional classification. Right? That evolved, all this evolved into traditional or conventional classification. Once again, go back to your textbook. Once again, go back to your textbook. Look at page number 62. Under the heading, traditional method of classification. Just read the first paragraph, which has only one sentence. Read it and tell me, what is the criteria? What is the criteria for the traditional or the conventional method of classification? Quickly, just one sentence. As Chanda rightly mentioned, traditional or the conventional system of classification is fundamentally based on whether this thing called a notochord was present or not present in the organism. That's all. Then what is a notochord? What is a notochord? On page number 63, the definition of notochord is given. I am reading it and I will ask you two questions related to this. It says, notochord is a long rod-like supporting structure present on the dorsal side of animal body. It keeps the nerve tissue isolated from remaining body. Notochord is a long rod-like supporting structure present on dorsal side of animal body. It keeps the nerve tissue isolated from remaining body. So many new words. Now, I'm challenging you to guess and tell me what notochord means. Do we know notochord by some other name or something similar to notochord that we know that is present in our bodies also? What is it? Chand is saying notochord sounds like something like the spine, and he is absolutely correct. Reed ki haddi, the spine that we have, the backbone, scientifically speaking, and when we use a term which is there, which is applicable to all organisms, it's called the notochord. Notochord converts, or it has evolved over the years into the spine that we have in our bodies. What is there inside the spine? There is something inside the spine, something passing through the spine. Spine is hollow, you know. What passes through the spine? It is not just nerve, it's a special. You have studied this when you studied nervous system. There is a specific name for this part of the body which is passing through the spine. It is called spinal cord. So notochord is the structure, it's the pipe-like structure that protects spinal cord. And spinal cord, if you remember, is one of the two main parts of our nervous system. One is the brain, and second one is the spinal cord. Right? So for spine, which the more fundamental word is notochord, and for spinal cord, the more fundamental name is nerve cord. That is also there on page number 63. So the criteria that was used is whether organisms, animals have a notochord or not. Now, based on whether they have a notochord or not, the animals were classified into two major groups. What are the two groups? Name them. You name, I will type. Non-chordates and chordates. Very good. I will write non-chordata and chordata. We can also say non-chordates and chordates. That's fine. I'm trying to use the proper name, so I have written like this. So non-chordata or the non-chordata is the name of the group, and the organisms that belong to this group, they are called non-chordates. These are the animals that do not have an notochord in any stage of their life, when they are embryos and not when they are fully grown organisms. Whereas chordata includes animals which have a notochord in some shape or form in some stage of their life. Non-chordata and chordata. Now, yes, there is more detail about where the notochord was found, which part of the body the notochord was found. For that, we need to once again revise certain things that I think I have told you before. The words that we need to know, 4 new words: anterior, posterior, ventral, and dorsal. Let me try tell you the meaning of these words using a simple diagram. I'm not very good at drawing, but I will try, and that too online. Not working. Let me try again. Right? 4 new words: anterior, towards the front, towards the head; posterior, towards the back, towards the bottom; ventral, it's towards the stomach; and dorsal is towards the back. So what happens, the characteristics of non-chordates is, of course, where the body is not supported by rod-like notochord, pharyngeal gills are absent. मछली में होता है ना gills through which they breathe, through which they respire. They are absent. Nerve cord, which is spinal cord, if present, अगर है, so then it is on the ventral side, मतलब पेट की तरफ. It is solid and paired. एक नहीं दो solid होता है. Heart, if present, is on the dorsal side. Heart जो होता है पीछे की तरफ होता है, पीठ की तरफ. Nerve cord जो होता है, जो spinal cord होता है, वो आगे की तरफ होता है, पेट की तरफ. And it is completely different from what we see in chordates. There is a notochord. Pharyngeal gill slits are present for respiration. अगर nerve cord है, तो it is on the dorsal side, and heart है, heart तो है ही है. It will be on the ventral side, like us. We are chordata. A part of chordata. We are chordate. Using this criteria, scientists realized that there are within the chordates or within the subkingdom chordata, non-chordata, there are 10 different types of organisms. Not 1, not 2, 10 different. What are they? Protozoa, Porifera, Nidaria, Platyhelminthes, Astiolminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, and Hemichordata. They are called phylums, phyla. We will study about the hierarchy. सबसे ऊपर kingdom, then we have subkingdom, और उसके नीचे है phyla. The chordates, on the other hand, they belong to just one phylum, the subkingdom chordates. Chordata has only one phylum, Chordata. This is another reason कि यहाँ पर क्यों कहीं पर chordates लिखा है और कहीं पर chordata लिखा है. For phylum, the word chordata is used. For kingdom, chordates is used. And this phylum is further divided into subphylum: Urochordata, Cephalochordata, Vertebrata. Vertebrata subphylum is divided into something called as classes. There are 6 classes: Cyclostomata, Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammalia. Now you already see a hierarchy: kingdom, subkingdom, phylum, subphylum, class. Then there will be something called as genus, or maybe family, genus, and species. Try find out the complete hierarchy of the classification of organisms. But before we go there, where do you think human beings are in this classification? Where do they belong? Let's start from the kingdom. Which kingdom do human beings belong? Is it kingdom Animalia or kingdom Plantae? So very clearly, human beings are in kingdom Animalia, in the subkingdom Chordates, in the phylum Chordata, in the subphylum Vertebrata, and in the class Mammalia. This is where we belong. But there are so many other phyla. There are so many other classes, subkingdoms, right? That is what we are going to study. To understand who we are, how we are related to other organisms and the environment. What we have done now is we have understood how big how diverse the animal kingdom is. We have understood that classification is not a one-time process. The process of classification, the method of classification itself has evolved over the years. We understood that when we classify, it makes it convenient, and it also helps us see both differences and similarities, and we get to know the bigger picture as well as the smaller picture. And the traditional or the conventional classification is this on the screen: kingdom Animalia, again traditional conventional classification of animals only. All animals are one kingdom Animalia, which is divided into 2 subkingdoms, chordates and non-chordates. Non-chordates are divided into 10 phylum, 10 phyla, whereas the subkingdom chordates has only one phylum, Chordata, which is divided into 3 subphylum, phyla: Urochordata, Cephalochordata, and Vertebrata. And Vertebrata subphylum is divided into 6 classes. What we will do next in the next class is understand the modern system. The modern system is called the 5 kingdom system, and it has been proposed by Whittaker, Robert Whittaker. We will look at it in a very brief way. We will also look at the different levels, the hierarchy of the classification in general and for animals. And then we will see what the 5 kingdom system is based on, the criteria that it is based on. But for now, but for today, we will stop. So for you to be in a position, for us to be in a position to study faster and study well in the next class, please make notes of what we studied today and read the pages 61 to 66. Nothing to answer. Please read the pages from 61 to 66. Complete it tonight so that we can progress with this on Saturday. That is it.